right. Let's see if we have enough lighting in here. Okay. All right, that looks better right there. Let me see if I can readjust this camera. Okay. Greetings. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. First, as usual, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is going to be for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. Any event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource Channel is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my opinions and thoughts on the topic. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, the topic of this video is going to be what they told me and why I'm back, plus Q&A session. This is a follow-up, of course, from the video I did the other night when I was at work. Coming off an off day, I do have to go in tonight. So I am on a time restraint, and I want to explain to you, I have my notes with me, and more so what I was told is going to kind of reiterate. So just bear with me. Okay, I'm back. Okay, let me grab right here. First of all, I want to say thank you to all those who continue to follow me and those who have stayed subscribed, those who have donated, much appreciations. It does help the channel out as I'm trying to grow to get to the next level. Those who paid for private consultations. Also, a public service announcement. For those who do want to contact me, I'm no longer answering questions through email unless you set up a private consultation because I am just too busy at this point. I have some subscribers who are exempted. I went over in the past to explain. I went over several times the specific criteria I was looking for those who are exempted. There are some subscribers I appreciate very greatly. I will keep them. I won't say their names. One of them has actually been in the chat before, and I actually plan on attending a private webinar he invited me to this coming weekend. So I do have a busy schedule on top of the other things that I do. I have to get better with my own time management, but that's how we recuperate from working a night shift. But I am trying to get to the next level and things. I won't say what that particular webinar is about. It's not related to the other private classes that I was invited to this past summer or spring going into the summer that dealt with the trademark process. That's a whole separate process from what I'm new information I've come across. I have shared this information with another subscriber, by the way, FYI, but I won't really go into what it pertains to. By the way, I also have another subscriber who I received information from that's related to that event that I'm going to talk about in this video. By the way, that is another source that I have. I have multiple sources, and I'll be very vague because I'm going to go over the reason why and what I was told by another contact. So to get right into things, the title of this video is going to be what they told me and why I'm back. They basically relayed they didn't mind me making YouTube videos, but they didn't want me to talk about that event or the names of the people associated with that event. And I'm going to mention some of my grievances that I have. If I do have enough time to get to them later, I'm going to try to pack everything in. This video is also Q&A session. So without further ado, as I was reiterating, they said they didn't mind me doing the videos. They just didn't want me to talk about anything related to that event, as I previously have spoken about. They also didn't want me mentioning the names of any attendees associated with that event. I understand, however, but at the same time, I feel personally that they are still holding my private documents. I'm still just going by their word as far as I was one of the original 2009 attendees to that event. since this is an enormously tough decision for me, I've decided that in the meantime, I'm going to continue to do YouTube videos, still have a social media presence, since I have not received what was promised to me on numerous occasions. This still has not manifested in my life, so I have to move on and do what's best for me for right now. In the meantime, because I do get paid a little bit from YouTube from the AdSense. It's not that much. Like some channels, people are super huge. I'm not that large. I'm not complaining. I also still don't have a Patreon account yet. That's why I said the donations, the private consultation, that does help me out. If you guys want to see me go to the next level, I will. With that, the momentum kicks up, then I will be able to do videos on a more regular basis. I already, on top of that, reduced one of the days with my job. However, I'm in the process of looking for work elsewhere. By the way, I have some good leads because Christmas is coming up, and I just got word there's another big major corporation that's hiring. I did work 2 jobs earlier this year. I'm still punching the clock, even though I'm doing the YouTube videos. This is like my hustle on the side, by the way. So you can imagine things are really busy. That's why I said if you have questions, I'm no longer answering basic questions by the email. Once again, this is a public service announcement. You're going to have to set up a consultation. I did see a message from someone on YouTube, someone on Twitter. There's also people in front of you, by the way, that I've relayed the same thing. One person stated they're going to get back with me once they pony up the funds. That's fine, because it lets me know at the same time how serious someone is. So my time is not wasted, because my time is valuable, and time equals money. I feel as though people can pay for Netflix. People pay to go to the movie theaters. People pay for amusement parks. People pay for expensive clothes, restaurants, shoes, luxuries, etc. Why not pay for your freedom? But that's up to you. You know, I don't force anybody, but I'm just putting it out there that I have to move on and keep going because my schedule is getting a lot tighter. And there's positive things that are happening. I do appreciate, on a side note, the subscriber who relayed some very high level information in terms of, I won't go into the details about that yet, but something that could potentially help me and alleviate this 9-to-5 job down the road, or give me another option, by the way. But getting back to the topic, this event, I received promises occasion after occasion, which is still not manifested. And I am going to say, for the purposes of this video, so for those of you all, many of you all may already know, I'll reframe as much as possible. But the event was called the PTK. It stood for Pastor Tony King Seminar. It was also known as Kingship Manna Coalition. They changed the name from. I was still very frustrated. There was people years ago who messed it up, or messed things up as far as funding for other people. I think they were selfish. Some of these individuals I've heard have crossed over to the other side. Some individuals were so selfish that they were already advanced, more advanced than other people who were receiving the information or the education, and they didn't care because they were selfish. They were all about themselves. They were narcissistic people, but they weren't punished, from what I understand. If they were kicked out, it doesn't really hurt them because they know how to access these accounts, by the way, or they know how to get some type of funding, and they were basically poo-pooed everyone else, basically. So they were selfish anyway. During that time period, I myself and a few others, followed all the rules, by the way, before I decided to go public. A friend of mine encouraged me many years ago, by the way, and I actually helped get someone in last year, by the way. I won't go into all the details about that, but I did relay that, if they do look out for me down the road, I would appreciate it, but it's not no love lost. I had other investments, things that I hope pray that will manifest as a backup, and doing what I need to do that's necessary in supporting myself, and trying to. I would have liked to pass things down. I don't have any children right now, but I've discussed in the past. This has prevented me. I could have been married by now. This took a big portion of my life. And you can imagine if some people were in the same shoes as me, they would be just as frustrated, just as upset. I live on my own. I pay my own rent. I don't get no handouts. I don't get Section 8, HUD housing, none of that. So this proves I'm a hardworking American. And at times, 3 different occasions in my life, including this year, I've worked 2 jobs. By the way, I've done that 3 different times. This is the third time this year. Many years ago, I worked a second job to support myself. So I have been on assistance before, but I didn't stay on it. By the way, in terms of, if you guys know what that means, but I'm not a money hungry person. I'm a humble person. I describe myself overall. This was an opportunity I was presented with many years ago. My cousin told me about this event, my older cousin, who was trying to look out for me. By the way, I originally wasn't going to attend this event if it wasn't, he convinced me back around the early part of 2009. I would say sometime around January. I didn't attend the first event until August of that year, by the way, which was the Baltimore seminar, by the way. And just kind of giving you guys a little background to go over. This was a real event. This was a private, clandestine operation, by the way. If you're not familiar with that term, this terminology was used in a show called America's Book of Secrets that aired on the History Channel, Part 2 some years ago. You know how these cable channels have like second channels. A friend of mine had actually invited me over his place at the time and put me up on the show, just like America Unearthed. That guy that is a geologist named Scott Walter, that they did an episode. This was a separate show, but they did an episode on the New World Order. So I do get substantial, credible information. I do have sources from all around different walks of life. I have friends who are former military, by the way, in case you guys question my credibility, because I've heard people say, don't listen to me, or I'm just making this stuff up. No, I'm not just making this up. I have supporting documentation to substantiate, to validate the information that I'm going over. By the way, and the reason I'm going public is to put it on public record. So in the event, if anything did ever happen to me or whatever, close friends or relatives and some friends I've designated in particular who will stay behind the scenes will be able to corroborate a case and defend my honor. By the way, I'm a man of my word. I'm an honorable person. I try to be a man of integrity, by the way, but I didn't feel this way from that event. And that's why I'm going over what happened. There's some people that said I'm making this personal. Uh, However, at the same time, there was other people who were attendees that were still very frustrated. I hear some of the same stuff going on that took place when I was a current attendee. I was contemplating on coming back to the event last year. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I'm just going over as to the reasons why. Because the main thing is I still have not received my documents. I still have not been funded. They're still holding my private social security card, my birth certificate, my depository trust and clearing corporation eligibility questionnaire forms, my wizard payment and acceptance forms, and my other processing forms through the California Private Banking Trust. By the way, that we were promised many years ago we were going to get that back. Now we're all the way in the year 2020, all the way in September, the 24th to be exact, of the year 2020. And this was back in 2009 when I started going to these seminars to meet the qualifications. And that's how I learned this high level information that's related to the redemption education that I don't call sovereign citizen. I don't use that terminology because keep in mind, be very careful if people use that terminology, that there are agents out there. If they say sov cits or whatever, or sovereign citizens, there's a legitimate side, and it actually refers to being a private citizen. By the way, there's proper terminology, and there's a sector. There's a difference between the private sector versus another elite sector of the economy, just like there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. There's a rich form of being public, and there's another version of being wealthy is in a different category. By the way, a few of you all who study banking, finances, securities that are advanced do understand and overstand what I'm referring to from that regard, by the way. I'm going to jump in the chat and acknowledge you guys really quick. Chris in the building says peace. Thank you for joining, Chris. CJ Love said love, brother. 100. Appreciate you. Victor Colin with the strong emoji. Appreciate it. Like I noticed the basketball player Draymond Green used to do that a lot. Dr. Ed says, I'm on deck, brother. Sorry for being late. No problem. Appreciate you Mary Saunders says, hello, Mr. Dorsey. Thank you for joining, Mary. I did receive your message, by the way, Mary, and make sure you check the description box of my video to answer your question. By the way, if I always don't have time to get back in terms of questions, because I had another message from someone else in my schedule. I've already made this announcement some weeks back in previous videos, but for those who want to contact me, whenever you're ready, check the description box for the instructions on that, by the way. Chef Mag says hello. Tail Saw says greetings. Darren Jackson says, I'm learning a lot from you. Appreciate you, Darren. Thank you for the thumbs up. And if you guys can, don't forget, if in case you're watching, I'm your host, John Dorsey, the third to be more specific, at Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on Instagram, Dorsey's Resource _ 2019. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, the like button. It helps out. Helps me rank higher in the search results. It's also an unofficial way of voting. If you agree with what I'm saying overall, you like the content that I put out, you like the work that I do, always don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you can. I understand you might be eating or doing something else. You can't do it immediately, but it helps out tremendously if you definitely, it shows the appreciation. By the way, the topic of the video that I'm going over right now is what they told me and why I'm coming back. Plus, this is also a Q&A session as well. I have a plethora of notes. Hopefully, I should have enough time to go over everything. So in case for all those watching, this is the best time to reach me. This is the only time pretty much that I will answer questions. I'm no longer, if you want questions answered through email, you have to set up a private coaching, private consultation with me from here on out. This is a public service announcement. Once again, you want to know about UCC, my knowledge. I understand that I've been told on numerous occasions, people have told me this privately, that I break things down really well. I've even been told by some friends in the past that I give out too much information. So since I have a busy schedule and I'm a lot more busier, I do have to head in tonight. I have to punch. Basically, I'm still punching the clock in a way. So in the meantime, that's why I have to set these new guidelines up if you want to contact me, by the way. So to get back into the topic, what they told me is, since this was an enormously tough decision, I've decided to continue to do videos. I received promises on numerous occasions that I was going to get funded. We were going to get funded. They're still holding my private documents, which I just went over. What actually happened to them, these documents, I cannot fully verify 100%. They were saying that it's in the hands of this guy named Gary Colombo or whatever, who's based out of the Las Vegas group. So I have to just go by their word. But I had another source told me that he was blamed for stealing $15,000 or something like that. But they said, why was he still allowed to do conference calls last year? By the way, this is what this other source relayed to me very recently, by the way. And I said, yeah, that's a good question. So it's like, I don't know who's telling the truth, by the way, between Gary Colombo or Pastor Tony King, by the way. So for the meantime, this is what I'm going to continue to do. I feel like I should have been funded a long time ago. This is ridiculous that we were lied to. This is like giving people false hopes and false dreams, by the way. And, it is for what it is. So I can only go by what was relayed to me. However, I cannot validate if this is accurate, that they're telling me that they're working on getting my material back, my information that was submitted. I also had a thumb drive in there as well, because we were promised we were going to receive that back by Pastor Tony King. And this was December of 2009 at the World Marriott Hotel in Orlando, Florida, right around the corner from Nickelodeon Studios. I have pictures, photos from that event that I took at the time, and even some of the previous events that I attended. I actually privately, because I had some relatives who were attendees, by the way, not just one cousin in the DC area. I had another cousin, his brother in the Florida area, who was an attendee as well. And there was other people that I met there too. So I have a good memory, but we were promised we would receive that material back. And I can't believe I'm still in 2020 and I'm not funded yet. And then we were basically told to basically put our lives on hold. This is, can you imagine how devastating this is for those of us who tried to be loyal? just only to be just given basically false hopes and false dreams to not see this manifest, but other people get access to information and things that I still haven't. It's like you're playing favoritism. So, as one attendee said, or another source I have, I won't say the name of that individual, they stated from their opinion that Tony should have put us in a special category. Some of us, by the way, we should have been looked out for. By the way, we were under their tutelage. By the way, even when I showed that black card in the video, the consent application that I showed in that video, and I'm not taking that down yet. I've decided I'm just going to leave that up for the time being because I haven't seen this manifest. Just like I'm going to continue to do the videos, by the way, until I see something manifest, something substantial, because this is ridiculous. So enough. I don't want to sound like I'm ranting really hard, but I am going over my reasons why I'm returning. I just discovered recently. Oh yeah, this is the other thing. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit from my notes. Okay, I read that already. I also wanted to discuss the major fraud being perpetuated on us behind our back, by the way, just in general. Those of us who study this information, who are especially trying to access the private secret TDA accounts. I just discovered recently, or not too long ago, there was a petition that was started a while ago from the so-called secret TDA accounts or private TDA movement, which is now ended. That was started back around middle summer of 2017. That involved Harvey Dent, Mike O'Brien, some other channels that relayed this information that they came across. So I came across some new information from a subscriber too, who's really advanced at higher levels. I would say a couple subscribers. And I want to let you guys know, if you're studying redemption information, by the way, there's a lot of people who have YouTube channels who teach this type of information, and they're not all the same. There's different variations. I would say there's not a silver bullet. It's not a one size fits all formula. In a sense, there is, but the elites, the ruling class at the high levels have the cheat sheet, have exactly the shortcuts. And that's kind of what I put in this article that some people have gotten access to, got a hold of, by the way, but by favoritism being played. But it wasn't fair for the other attendees who attended this event, by the way. But keep in mind, there's different processes, there's different procedures. Not all of them are created the same. This is what a lot of people don't understand. If you're I got a couple messages from a couple people who are interested in learning about the so-called straw man or UCC finances statements. In my opinion, because I did give a disclaimer, this is not financial or legal advice, by the way, is when I first got in this movement, I did a lot of reading. I read a lot of documents, many of which were still free online. Nowadays, that site called Scribd or whatever, which a friend of mine told me is owned by the Discovery Channel now. I don't know when they bought it or how long, but a friend of mine said that website Scribd, they have a lot of those documents from websites that would teach this type of information. They used to share articles and documents many years ago by Barton Butts, Winston Shrout, Dr. Sam Kennedy, Rice McLeod, maybe Kevin Hines, Patrick Devine, a whole list of others out there. They've taken a lot of those documents and make people pay like a membership fee just to get those documents. But a lot of those documents, because I remember from many years ago, my good memory that I have, I used to go up to my college and print up those documents, which I still have some of those type of documents in my possession from websites that are no longer up, by the way. Now, one website that's remained around for a long time is called famguardian.org, which was shared with me back in November of 2004 by one of these two good brothers that I met when I was introduced by someone else in the movement back then that shared that website. That's been around for quite a while. So big shout out to the people at famguardian.org. I think they call themselves this also. They have an acronym called SEDM, the Sovereign Defense Ministry or something like that. By the way, they've been a very good pioneer and website throughout the years that's been very helpful with the laws, helping regular citizens who don't have access to lawyers, explaining to them about due process of law, because a lot of these codes and the language is convoluted and it's hidden out there. And I'm hopefully I'm going to have time to address that, to stay on topic. By the way, I'm going to jump back. I can't see the chat screen, but I'm going to jump back to see if you guys have any questions as I'm reading what happened and why I'm returning. So I mentioned about the petition that was started. And that petition is closed, by the way. They only got 2,000 signatures or more. I'm not sure what would have been the result. That was to look into the secret TDA accounts. I even suggested at the time the top people involved should have collaborated, filed a class action lawsuit. I believe Mike O'Brien during that time period was looking for a lawyer, a good lawyer, by the way. And I heard it's not too many out there that would, take on these types of cases or information. By the way, I heard Tom Cryer was one. He passed away, rest in peace, too. He went up against the IRS. He actually was one of a few who won, but I heard he was also messed with. He was targeted by the deep state, by the way. So it's not a lot of lawyers who will take on this type of information to help masses of people out that can imagine for individuals such as myself and others that had to endure this evilness from these cabal people, by the way. I also, I came across new information from a subscriber. I mentioned that already. I would say a couple subscribers who are really advanced. I'm going to contact one, by the way, who I'm assisting. I won't go into the details about that. I'm going to stay hush hush about that, by the way. Great portions of this type of information were removed in different time periods. This subscriber stated to me, and only a few people are aware of this, that this subscriber told me that if you had your eyeglasses on, some of this type of information was taught to people in high school and college, by the way. So trying to see what else. So I can corroborate this subscriber's story to be true because I used to attend these private meetings many years ago where we had an attendee mention how he learned this information back in college. Now, this was relayed to me by another attendee who I still stay in touch with to this day that stated this to me, by the way. And I'm going to show real quick. Bear with me. Hopefully you guys can see to corroborate. This book is kind of old. It's called Business and the Law. And some, I believe it's taught in colleges. I've noticed it's written by people who have like master's degrees or PhDs. There's PDF files I looked up online some years ago. I downloaded just doing research. But this book talks about things related to the so-called sovereign citizen movement or redemption education. By the way, I went over this before in a previous video, by the way, but I can corroborate what this subscriber who's really advanced told me, by the way, who I'm going to be attending one of his private webinars, by the way, this coming weekend, a private class. I won't go into the details about. He was telling me how this information was taught, then it was removed years ago. It was hiding in plain sight, and only a few people know how to properly access the information. It's different methods or different ways how to access these accounts, or it's other methods or procedures that one can use. But to give you an example, the reason UCC financing statements are real, despite what gatekeepers and trolls out there have said, this book and the newer versions I discovered has a chapter called Secure Transactions. That chapter deals with UCC financing statements, which puts your state, your local Secretary of State, Department of Motor Vehicles on notice that you, as a secure party, have a vested interest in a property. You're putting the state on notice, and there's public notices and there's private notices, or public liens and private liens. And this book talks about contracts, like dealing with contract law, because in law the contract is king. By the way, there was a website years ago where there was this firm that set up trusts for very elite people, and on the website when it used to pop up, it would have a lady, a robot speak that would say, "In law, the contract is king." By the way, well, this book also has another chapter called Commercial Paper. And some of the other versions of this book, the chapters may vary, but that chapter called Commercial Paper dealt with negotiable instruments, and it showed like site drafts or whatnot. Because some people down the road tried to say that site drafts were illegal, but when you understand the Federal Reserve Bank has been complicit in this cover up and committing fraud by not educating their lower level bank tellers and branch managers how to process these negotiable instruments, when you had to go through high level people that knew how to negotiate your instrument to have it successfully discharged, which is a form of financial terrorism because it's forcing you to have to use your hard labor from your job to pay your rent and stuff, when all of that is, they're pulling it out of your exemption account. And this is a form of stealing, by the way. This is unjust enrichment, by the way, and this is a form of criminal activity. But the subscriber was saying, if you have a trained eye, you have your eyeglasses on, and you're paying attention. This book also had another chapter that dealt with, it was called Intellectual Property, that deals with like DBAs, doing business as, fictitious names, copyrights, trademarks. And I took a private meetings this past summer related to that I was invited to by another individual who studies this type of information. So you can do research on this book. I think people who go to school, I was set to take this class when I was in college. I graduated with my associate's degree, and I did take classes going towards my bachelor's. I graduated in business administration, self-directed management, by the way. And this class was, I think it was required. Like you have a certain set of electives, and then you have classes within your major. But this class would generally be required for maybe students that go into finance, accounting, by the way, some lawyers, it would be mandatory. But I think this may have been a required elective for everyone, but it was after a certain plateau, because I knew the one of the instructors who was over my department, and they had a certain category of classes that you had to take first. So I was actually set to take this class pretty soon down the road, but there was something that had barred me from being able to continue my education during the time period. I found I had got trapped into something that I didn't know about at the time, and I didn't know nearly about this information, how they're using the promissory note, how they were using our signature, stuff like that. But this book is an eye opener, and I just named 3 different chapters that's related to so-called sovereign citizen stuff that this gatekeeper out there says it's not true. I'm here to show you there is validity, there is truth. I talk about the legitimate side, and this book is an eye opener. If you can look up the newer versions, this is an older version published back in during the 70s. So to corroborate what this subscriber had mentioned to me, that this information, he said, not only was taught in college, he even told me it was taught in high school as well. And a lot of people don't take a civics class, by the way, which I think deals with the law. I used to think it dealt with history, but it is tied in with history, like American government, because it may have chapters or sections where it talks about the 3-body politics of government, which is tied in with the law, because politicians, legislatures, they write the laws and things of that sort. They vote. So there's a correlation between the two. You see how all these things can connect, and you guys can basically get that. So to jump in the chat really quick again to acknowledge you guys. Mary Saunders says, I will, sir. Okay, great. You got the message. Richie Ferreira says, any news on the RV? By the way, I get bits and pieces in, Richie, but it's still pretty much the same old what you've heard before. Just be on standby. By the way, in terms of the RV, I put it on the back burner, the revaluation. You know, don't know. In my opinion, I think it's being stalled. It's been held up. It should have happened a long time ago. There's no reason, especially if people on higher tiers were able to exchange going back to 2014. There's no reason that tier 4 A, they broke it up into tier 4B. That should have been finished by now. We should have already been going to the exchange centers or whatever. It should have been released. It's ridiculous that this keeps being held up, in my opinion, by the way. Okay, Wapika Elu El Bay says, greetings, John D. Don't worry about what people think or say. You're on the right path. Your blessings are coming. Okay, thank you for the confirmation. I appreciate that. Darren Jackson says, is a trust management bank safer than an FDIC bank? I'm not sure, Darren, as far as the difference, but if it appears as though what I've looked at, well, I saw buildings, even one in Michigan when I was in the Farmington Hills area, that stated outside the building asset management. And I believe asset management is like another division that gets into like private banking or wealth management, by the way, because there are higher levels and I think advanced levels of redemption education that I'm not as skilled at, but I was told many years ago because I have a friend or knew someone who was a former stockbroker where I helped wake him up to this information dealing with redemption. He in return helped wake me up to stuff pertaining to what they're doing behind the scenes, trading on a Circle 750. Since he was a stockbroker, he had a Series 7, Series 63 license. He also worked as a mortgage loan officer, by the way. So he informed me how they were doing exchanges. So I would say it's definitely would be something to look into. But I also came across information recently that may help you. This will be a jewel I'll drop for you. Is look into Cedars. Cedars, you may want to look into what that is. I was reading information, and that was actually mentioned at this event that I attended some years ago, by the way. So that hopefully that'll help you out. Cedar, C is in cup, D is in dog, A is in apple, R is in Roberto, S is in Sam. Look up Cedars, by the way, information about that and how it pertains to the FDIC, by the way. Wapika Ella L. Bay says, who are the authors of the business and the law? There's different authors. The author of this book was, I guess, it may have been a joint author, Rosenberg and slash OTT or whatever. I have to take a look. Says, open it by Robert Rosenberg. He was a CPA, and it says William G. OTT. The copyright on this book, let me see what year this was from. To answer your question, by the way, it says copyright was from 1975, McGraw-Hill. It's when this was printed. Now, mind you, there's newer versions. That's why I went over information about looking up PDF files online that can help assist you, by the way. So Richard Fier says, hello, greetings to you. So to finish going back over the notes that I have, by the way, and just to give you guys a heads up, don't hesitate if you guys want to jump in, because the other night I got a whole lot of people at the last minute. And if I'm running short on time, I am going to have to cut things short. So just to give you a heads up, this is the best time to ask me questions when I have these Q&A sessions. By the way, they may not always be around as I'm moving to the next level. And if I do start a Patreon account, by the way, which I know I've been saying that for a while, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but that's something I've been looking into, by the way, that could potentially help out down the road. And it's a little bit more private because YouTube is still very public, but I'm no longer answering questions through email. If you want specific questions answered, or if it's too in depth, by the way, where I have to go into more detail or it's high level information, you have to set up a consultation. Check the description box. By the way, these are my new requirements that I have because I'm just too busy with my time. And then I would know you're more serious, by the way, and I would get back to you a lot quicker, a lot sooner, by the way, just to give you guys a heads up. James Way says, sir, I am hearing that the UCC WI will not be accessed unless you get a lawyer to do it for you, and they will not approve the UCC filings anymore. What do you know of this? I have heard about that in the past because there's, you know, in one sense, you did have a lot of people, you had people who were legitimately filing them, but then you also had people who were using them for other means to put liens and stuff without having a proper administrative remedy or judgment in place. And then that's where it gets into fraud. But the problem is that we have gatekeepers and high level people like states attorneys who have a lot of power, who know about these secret accounts. Because I was assisting a sister on a call a couple years ago, and a friend of hers, by the way, had a lawyer. She stated at the time referred to her her legal name, her in lingus, as a trust account. By the way, the in lingus is the judicial term or court terminology for your all caps name, your straw man name. So I've heard that, and if you keep in mind, are subjected, if you put yourself in certain contracts that gives the state the power of attorney over you, by the way, like for example, if you're a registered voter, if you're an organ donor, you sign up for subscription services and it's attached to your all caps name. You're using the SSN that's attached to your bank account. What's happening behind the scenes, and I'm giving you guys some advanced information right now I don't normally talk about, by the way, so just bookmark this because I won't always go over this and I can go more in depth. They're hitting your account, but what's happening is gatekeepers who are states attorneys, by the way, and gatekeepers who have ill will towards people who study this type of information, who don't want to see people have success. There's a legitimate side, by the way. I want to tell you, there's things that have worked. That's why I showed this book, by the way, to show credibility. There's newer versions of this book, by the way, to substantiate my point. But to answer your statement, I have heard about that, James Wade, but that's because a lot of the comptroller of currency, you have deep state bad actors, certain states attorneys are in cahoots, and some of them may not have been trained, but some of them do know, and they're using these types of accounts to enslave people. So when you sign up under these contracts, they're making you liable. Like when you fill out the census or whatever. And I had the other subscriber who invited me to this private webinar, who's, I would say, very advanced, explained to me privately. He gave a very good explanation how the census is tied in. It's not a coincidence with the voting process, by the way. But when you're involved in these contracts, they're making you a U.S. citizen or U.S. person. And many of these, some of these entities don't have permission to access your secret account or your trust account. But what they're doing is when you subject yourself to these contracts, by the way, unknowingly, many people, they're able to cash in on your account, by the way. There was a channel that went down, I mentioned in the past, there was a guy named M. Ross, or his channel went by that. There was somebody else who uploaded some of his videos from the previous his original channel, but it was shut down by YouTube. And he had a video, which was an audio call between him and this lady named Rochelle from New York. And it was a real good discussion. And she talked about how they're fractionalizing within the court system, because understand the court system is connected to the Federal Reserve through the CRIS accounts, that stands for Court Registry Investment System. That's tied in with the Federal Reserve Bank. And then the county uses what's called the CAFR funds. That's an acronym for Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports. You ever heard why they had dead people voting? A lot of times this came from the Democratic Party, by the way. They're more corrupt than the Republicans, far more corrupt and evil, by the way. That's why politically I swing more to the right. And I do plan on, since the previous video, someone asked or brought up something in relation to the Breonna Taylor situation. And I'm going to do a video where I'm going to cover all that. I have a whole lot of notes, and I've already went over that in the past, by the way, and the history, and it's going to be action packed. So stay tuned for that, by the way. But there's a lot of corruption. So I did hear about that. And there's one particular gatekeeper out there. I even say some people even believe she's a government agent, that she's a shield. I don't think the channel is worth mentioning the name. So if you guys come across the channel, you'll probably figure out, you guys will see who I'm talking about. They never show a real face. They want you to believe that they're credible. They want you to believe that their facts matter. by the way, and they use a pseudonym name. They've only put up like one profile picture when they were beefing with Harvey Dent a while ago. And I already have notes compiled on that individual. I even had a private investigator that came to my channel and allegedly ran a background check, I guess, on that name. And he was surprised that it matched up with the name that I had, because this individual, I believe, was a troll when I was invited to these private conference calls during the TDA movement back in 2017. By the way, I saw the name of the account that they were under, and it looks like they may have been using their real government name during that time period, by the way, because when they first came out, they were plagiarizing information from my videos and were speaking indirectly, taking shots at me, by the way. And I was coming back with, you look at some of the older videos that I did about the TDA, that was a screen capture. I was responding to them, but they were directly responding to me. So I know they were on those private calls I was invited to through the Discord app, because through the Discord app you can't see the screen names of who's behind those particular accounts. But I did see at the time the name that the person was up under, allegedly, who I think may be the culprit. And I do work in a form of private security, by the way, so I've been able to work with law enforcement. I've been able to ask questions, former military. I work with paramedics, EMS. By the way, I worked with scuba divers, firefighters before, and people relay information. And I've been able to ask some questions for people that have more credentials than myself to learn about the Lean database. By the way, I'm aware of information, how that links up to the FBI and Homeland Security, by the way. But these accounts are real. So that's some hater stuff that they're trying to do, in my opinion. By the way, where you shouldn't have to have a lawyer. There is a law, I know, in this state where you actually don't have to be licensed to practice the law. I just don't know what the code is offhand. But remember, the codes are copywritten, by the way, but you have to check your local state. Your laws might be different or vary based on the state or region, territory that you're in. You want to look that up. But if they're trying to do that, that is very egregious. They already have done a lot of egregious crimes. So this is ways where they're trying to force people to answer your statement from the chat, James Wade. That's a good statement. Where they're trying to force people to be slaves. And this is why I'm ticked off at that event that I attended, because the individual lied so many times, fabricated information telling us we were going to get funded. But then they admitted that there was people who used that black card that screwed up, by the way. Looks like we may be having some lighting issues. Okay, if it blurs again like that, I'm going to turn my lamp on, by the way. I'm going to switch probably to my other webcam next time, by the way. I'm using but hopefully I helped answer your question. House of Nathan Bull M says, is the newer version the Mason manual? I'm not sure what you're referring to, by the way. That's actually a different manual. Someone, I had a subscriber that sent me an email in regards to that. The book that I was showing is called Business and Law, which is allegedly is taught in at college universities. Once you reach a certain level in your curriculum, your major, I'm not sure if it's an elective, maybe an elective for some people. Electives are like classes that you don't have to take, that you can elect to take. But then if it's a requirement based on your major, by the way, like say if you're majoring in finance, accounting, well, it's blurring again, so hopefully the lighting is trying to adjust. Okay. Okay. Hopefully that, put it here. By the way, I was trying to get better lighting in here. Hopefully the camera will adjust right. Okay, bear with me, guys. See if I maybe bring that in over. Raise it up. Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay. James Way says, any way to find NROS anymore? And is there a way to go around UCC control? Yes, there is. That is a good question. By the way, I know many are referring to the DBA process. There's DBAs and trademarks. You want to look into those that teach that share that type of information, because in the courts it deals with you want to be the register owner, or you want to control the name. There's different ways to operate, by the way. There's different processes, by the way, but you want to be the register owner of that legal person of the in lingus, by the way. And there's ways to go about that, by the way, because with these gatekeepers, one of the reasons they're doing that, because there's a way that some of these public officials are illegally and criminally accessing these accounts without people's permission or without their proper authorization. But remember, you can acquiesce permission if if you have not filed certain paperwork, by the way, or captured control. But they're still, in some instances, I hear they're still breaking the law. That's where the court system, they're doing, some things, not all, but that's why locally, like here in Detroit, to file a complaint against lawyers, you have the Attorney Grievance Commission, Attorney Grievance Board. You have, for judges, the Judicial Tenure Commission. I think for local district judges, that's to file a complaint. There's also, if you know how to file the paperwork, you can do like a writ of pondus or something like that. There's other types of paperwork. I'm not versed in that terminology, because you see, that's really advanced. They use the Latin language. By the way, it's important to get a Black's Law Legal Dictionary, which they study to pass the bar exam. By the way, if you want to go, I think after federal judges, you may have to go through Cincinnati, through the Court of Appeals or something like that. There's a process for that. So they have been involved in misconduct, just like public officials. If you've seen corruption cases, I've seen the local news here cover corrupt, like city corruption. By the way, WXYZ Channel 7, Scripps Howard, which is running through ABC, which is owned by Disney. It's an underlink, by the way. So James Way says, I know who you are talking about. Yes, that is a troll. Yeah, that's you're correct. Says, got you know about I know about the trade name, will do. Okay, yeah. That trade name, fictitious name process, look into that. That is effective, by the way, very effective. And there's other aspects. Remember, the UCC is also would be used, something you would use towards the end. If you file it a certain way, you would be leaning up your legal name, and you would be operating. This is some more advanced type of information, but you would be operating a different way. But the concept, one of the ways you file that paperwork is you would be leaning up your legal name, by the way. But you want to make sure you have your funds together as you're transitioning, by the way, because you might not be able to work. Some years ago, I had my mother said she had believed when I had filed. I had a filing many years ago. I had several different UCC filings in the state of Michigan, and I was applying for jobs when I was laid off from one of my jobs back in '08, for example. And none of the other places were hiring me, that they had a freeze, and that could have potentially come because I had my legal name locked up, by the way, because you're literally putting a lien where, like, say if you get sued, they may have to satisfy the lien just to put a judgment, but your all caps name within the court system is the in lingus. So those UCCs are powerful, but you want to know the proper effective way how to utilize them, by the way, the correct way. And if you are using it for civil suits or things of that sort, you want to understand administrative processes. If you're going after a public official for a civil suit or something like that, you want to make sure you're careful, because some states, remember, they have a lot of power with the state's attorneys and secretaries of states. And this particular gatekeeper is even sort of aware of this, and she was even calling them, contacting them, trying to get people in trouble and locked up. When she originally came out, she claimed she was trying to help people, which was a lie, because she doesn't like this information. She doesn't even want people to have success with even the legitimate side. Because I had another subscriber that goes by the name Lady Bijou who reached out to me, said she had evidence that the A4V process works, and I still have to get back to her. By the way, I believe she's under a different name on my chat section. I won't say, but she stated to me she had evidence that the A4V process worked, and she reached out to this gatekeeper, and then this gatekeeper blocked her out after that. So that let me know that this gatekeeper isn't trying to hear even the legitimate stuff that actually works is real. She just wants to push this narrative that everything's a scam, everything's a fraud, and everybody's a sovereign citizen, which is disingenuous, by the way, and it's a form of stereotyping to label everyone as being one-sided. By the way, it's not fair and it's very disingenuous. So to get back on topic to my notes, I'm going over what they told me and why I'm back on YouTube, by the way. So I talked about the petition, the subscriber. So I was able to corroborate. That's why I showed the book. Great portions of this type of information were removed in different time periods. He stated to me, and only a few people are aware of this. I did mention that, and I can corroborate this story. That's why I showed the business and law manual that's taught in college universities. When I used to attend these private meetings many years ago, we had an attendee, by the way. These meetings were through word of mouth. He mentioned that he learned this information back in college. This is what someone I stay in touch with to today relayed to me and told me this, by the way. I also discovered some years back, okay, all right, I went over that already. A friend of mine discussed with me recently why a lot of people who study this type of information are broke in his eyes, are poor middle class. I said some, not all, because of the fraud that's being committed by gatekeepers who are blocking access, that are trying to make it more difficult. Because another thing, what they're doing, they're trying to force people, for example, by not showing people the proper ways how to fill out the 1099 form. They're trying to make people slaves by having to force them to get government benefits, Section 8, HUD housing, which they're pulling at those funds out of your exemption account. For those out there who don't know, by the way. So the reason why a lot of people are having a difficult time, they're using the financial system, the monetary system, as a weapon. I covered this a long time ago. Debt is their weapon, by the way. And by doing so, I said, let me go over. I said some, not all, because of the fraud that's being committed by gatekeepers who are blocking access and making it difficult to obtain proper access to one's own master account. So they're trying to prevent you from accessing your master account. This involves a combination of multiple professionals such as attorneys, judges, accountants, public officials, etc., who have acquired access to people's data knowingly or by force. Like they can look you up within the court system, which I mentioned is connected to the CRIS accounts. By the way, that's with the Federal Reserve, but they can get in trouble if it's found out about. That's what you have dealing with the situation that happened under President Obama with the surveillance situation with Carter Page and the cover up of former FBI James Comey, Clapper, Brennan involved. For example, you have a similar thing that takes place dealing with trying to access these the so-called secret account or TDA accounts. And you have several accounts, by the way, as it was illustrated by Telecheck. I have evidence. I did a video already where I had an account not only in the Federal Reserve's bank account, but I also had one with the Treasury, by the way. And they were able to look it up. The lady I spoke with over the phone, she had never met me in person before. The account number that I gave her was my social security number. And she stated that it even went over the functionality of that account, like what type of transactions could it do, EFT, what type of So I've got actual absolute confirmation, but this is being hidden from us, like the paperwork to fill out to properly access these accounts, because in the public sector, they're trying to keep those of us who do know about this information, they're trying to keep us as slaves. That's why I said, in my opinion, they have enough slaves within the system. By the way, I'm not, if people don't want to wake up, that's fine. I don't mind that. But those of us who diligently took the time to study this information, and especially from that event that I attended that paid hundreds of dollars and were under their tutelage, we should have been receiving assistance, and they should not have, held this up from us and made this difficult. By the way, we should have received assistance. by the way, because they have enough slaves, brainwashed people out there, people who want to stay enslaved, who don't even care. But those of us who were trying to access these accounts, we deserve to have access. And this is just dirty what they did to us. Not just myself, but lots of others, by the way. And this ties in with the statement you made, James Way. Very good statement, by the way. So to continue to go over the information I went over, this involves a combination of multiple professionals such as attorneys, judges, accountants, public officials, etc., who have acquired access to people's data knowingly or by force, who can cash in or who can access these accounts. This is why many who study this redemption education have been held under duress without proper due process. By the way, due to plausible deniability, because when you confront some of these gatekeepers, public officials, I read this many years ago, especially lawyers, judges, they can use or have used plausible deniability. By the way, you can look that up, what that means. So this is why they forcefully have caused people like myself, others who study this type of redemption education, I don't call us sovereign citizens, to be held under duress. That's why many of us are not rich. Some of us are poor. We don't have education in other regards, knowing how to do real estate, flip homes, stuff like that, or access lines of credit pertaining to that regard. That's why we're having a difficult time. It's due to gatekeepers and people who are committing fraud. And, some of us that were under the tutelage were because of individuals that messed up for everyone else pertaining to that event that I attended many years ago. That's why I'm still in the condition that I'm in, by the way, because some idiots out there were selfish. That's another thing. And it's by that person's own admission, one of the administrators at the top mentioned, by the way, people who emptied out ATM machines. So I digress. Let me go on. So this is why the many who study redemption education have been held under duress without proper due process due to plausible deniability. I was also told privately that if masses of people find out about this fraud they're committing, the general public will riot, by the way. It seems like that is already happening now, I would say, due to another type of injustice, by the way. The injustice I'm referring to, though, the difference is this deals with major banking fraud and corruption, and also from insurance companies, which insurance companies, I would say, and I'm not trying to sound like a social justice warrior or preach victimhood to you, but I would say to them that the banks and the insurance companies, it was known many years ago when Black people would pay into the insurance companies during the civil rights era, Jim Crow era, insurance companies and banks would not cover when Blacks had businesses, had fires and stuff of that sort, and charge higher interest rates and redline Black people, would not give Black people loans. That's called redlining because you lived in a certain area. For example, they passed a law last year. This is one of the positive things I did like in the bipartisanship that the governor worked on with Republicans, even though they revised it. I like the version the Republicans had, but they did implement some changes to insurance policy because this directly affects African Americans with policing. By the way, who the Attorney General William Barr did admit African Americans are pulled over at a larger rate. By the way, he said it in an interview I saw. A lot of people that don't pay attention because they're caught up in their feelings may not know about this. A lot of my own people. What the reason I'm bringing this up, I would say a lot of the racism, discrimination is heavily tied in, connected to the Rothschild Federal Reserve banking system, which controls these lower level banks such as Chase Bank, Bank of America, Huntington, SunTrust Bank, Wells Fargo. The list goes on. Citibank, these credit unions, First Federal Credit Union, Fifth Third Bank, Navy Federal Union. Many of these insurance companies, such as State Farm Insurance, Progressive Insurance, did you know they have their own routing numbers like banks do, by the way? So they're practicing banking, which this is a conflict of interest, by the way. And then they were charging Black people who live in Detroit due to the street gangsters who were involved in the corrupt activity of doing insurance jobs, which doesn't reflect the rest of the law-abiding citizens had to pay higher insurance rates because of the corruption that took place many years ago But they said under this new law that was passed that went into effect July of this past couple months ago or whatever, which was implemented from last year. By the way, they could not discriminate based on Black people's credit score and the zip code that they lived in. By the way, so this is proof. I just validated evidence that the discrimination and racism or injustice, I would say, or prejudice, which is a prejudging, is coming from the banks and insurance companies. So I'm touching on the most important critical area in terms that Black people, Black Lives Matter should be focusing on. And they also should be focusing on rebuilding the family structure. By the way, as I did hear about, they took that thing down from their website about their belief system, but they need to be focused on the injustice dealing with these insurance companies, high insurance rates all across the board, renters insurance, car insurance, these high exorbitant rates that they're charging. By the way, that's what needs to be reformed. And that's what people need help with. State Farm Insurance, just to throw a few names out there, the egregious activities. So that's the injustice that I'm referring to. By the way, this massive fraud that's being committed, perpetuated. By the way, because when people have money, they're happier. Of course, if I had gotten access to what I was supposed to get access to by attending these events many years ago, had the individual kept their promise, or whoever the people are behind the scenes that are controlling him, I could have been married by now. I could have lived a better quality of life. I wouldn't have probably had to be punching this clock anymore. I also could have been in a better position to help people, even in terms of those who do like humanitarian works, like nonprofits, or want to pay it forward. Now, you have to be careful with the nonprofits, 501c3, which is a whole nother topic, because there's a difference between 508 corporation versus another type, because 501c3 is subjected, that's an actual IRS tax code, which puts you in a box of categories as far as who you can help, who you can't. This is why famous people or whatever that say they give away a lot of money are put in the limelight. By the way, they get a tax write-off, so they get that money back. Whereas you or I, the average person, if we give money away to someone, that's money that we lost from our hard-earned labor, or something we may have worked hard for. I'm not saying just if it's in your heart to give, but say if I give $50 or $100 away, I'm not getting a tax write-off back like LeBron James or Colin Kaepernick. You know, that's money that is hard-earned labor that I lost, unfortunately. By the way, and many people are not understanding this because the media is portraying things in a certain light, in a certain image. And I'll touch on this more so when I do a follow-up video, and just remind me when I touch on why I left the left. I'm no longer, even though I'm not a registered voter, by the way, I'm going to go into the reasons why if I was a registered voter, I would be a Republican. By the way, I swing more to the right. Doesn't mean that I co-sign everything that they say or do. However, at the same time, I'm for God, family, and the Constitution. I believe in the rule of law. By the way, I think we need to have checks and balances, transparency. That's why I'm showing a real actual face. You don't have a gatekeeper, somebody who's doing a podcast that's always hiding behind a screen name that never shows their actual face. You have to question that, by the way. I'm just saying, you know, if they're so tough, they're so confident, if they're supposed to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And I was actually born in the year of the sheep. One of my relatives told me, so I'm the true GOAT, by the way, the greatest of all time. I'm showing a real face. You don't have someone that's doing a podcast hiding behind a account, or just got one photo of, you got somebody that's really showing themselves, by the way. So I just wanted to make that clear in going over this type of information, by the way. So once again, the injustice I'm referring to is the banking fraud and corruption that involves fractional reserve banking, denial of negotiable instruments, which I did a previous video about recently, is also being used to hide this type of information and bring us into a cashless society, by the way. I received very potent information recently from a subscriber. There is an institution that processes, certain types of transactions that can alleviate very large forms of debt, by the way. And this is also tied in with the private class webinar that I've been invited to this coming weekend. Hopefully I should be able to make it. It is on one of my off days, by the way. I look forward to that, and I appreciate the invite from that individual. However, at this time, I'm not at liberty to go into the detail due to the sensitive nature. But let me address the The reason why, really quick, you guys hear me say this because there are gatekeepers, there are bad actors, there are minions and deep state operatives who follow not just my YouTube channel and my other social media accounts I may be on. And some of these individuals may even be family members or relatives. I pay attention to everybody, by the way, because I do have a lot of family members that are on the left, that are liberal. I woke up out a long time ago. I canceled my voter registration back in 2004. I was formerly a Democrat, by the way. I've seen the corruption cases from WXYZ Channel 7 with city corruption, misconduct. Some people want to make it a race thing about our former mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, but also Robert Falcano. He was a white person, I think maybe of Italian descent. And he was at one time the Wayne County executor. By the way, he had access to the treasury or whatever, local treasury. He was the treasurer, or this like to the executive branch, I believe. But he eventually was voted out of office. There's someone else in place. So you can't convince me. There's no way I will come back to the Democratic Party. I think the Republicans are not perfect. They have a better pathway, but I've seen too much corruption. Even though lately the media has been persuaded because they're controlled by higher conglomerate corporations, they're not exposing a lot of that anymore because they're going along with this new narrative, this social justice warrior agenda. But I've already saw the reports from Heather Cataldo, Ross Jones, which he even exposed the former governor Rick Snyder, who's a neocon. He's not a true conservative, who had a slush fund, by the way, to show I pay attention to both sides, by the way. And they've done excellent investigative reports, not just their news station, but I've saw even Fox 2 News, the Problem Solvers, the Channel 4 Defenders. So I've seen far more corruption from underlinks, bad actors, and minions on the Democratic, liberal, progressive side than I've seen with conservatism or Republican Party, by the way. That's why I say, me personally, I will swing more to the right. There's nothing that any of my relatives can convince me that would cause me to go back to the left. By the way, I wouldn't co-sign some of these agendas that's being pushed to break apart the family structure. I think there are more important issues. The upliftment of the Black community is important to me. It still is dear to my heart, and I do intend to help out down the road, God willing, if I am able to get access to my master account or things manifest for me in the future, by the way, because we are in a battle. So I just want to let you guys know that's why when you guys hear me say I don't go into all the detail, because there are these gatekeepers and minions and even people who get ideas for movies and stuff who watch my work that I do, will steal content from me, and who are operatives that will try to sabotage other people trying to study or learn this type of information. They are out there, and I am aware of that. And that's why in many cases they hide behind fake or shill accounts, by the way, because they don't want to never show their real faces. So that's why I want to provide you guys credibility by showing my real face. You're having credible, reputable information, by the way. And if I mess up or make a mistake, which I've done in the past, I've come back and I correct myself or let you guys know if I was wrong about something too, by the way. So I try to prevent fair, balanced, quality journalism, quality information to you all, that where I'm not bought off by George Soros. I'm not a paid protester. You're getting real information, by the way. And then he's passed it along to his son here, who's based in New York, Alexander Soros, who's running his operation. And I do have evidence. I have a friend, one of my best friends, where his brother was getting paid for Open Society Foundation. I won't say at a particular state and a city down south. I'll just leave it at that, by the way, where he took me to the website some years ago, showed me his brother's name, because I know his government name, by the way, before he changed it. And he told me the name of his brother. And his other brother was upset at the time when he found out, because they knew about this as well. And there's things I could touch on, like the operative DeRay McKesson in the past, who Mike Brown's friend, who was killed, Darren Seals, exposed in some Facebook posts about Black Lives Matter back then coming in, and how they use DeRay McKesson, who was an operative, by the way, who was living in a house funded by Soros, who would pose for GQ magazine and other things. By the way, Darren Seals exposed some of this information. By the way, rest in peace to Darren Seals. You do have racism and prejudices that do go on. I acknowledge that. But you also have to pay attention to how these different groups have infiltrated the Black community and are using these different agendas to break apart the family structure and do other activities very similar to the information that I'm going over. So you guys clearly can distinguish between who has your back and who doesn't, by the way. So I'm going to start. I'm going to go back to the chat, see how many you guys may have jumped in. This is also a Q&A session. You guys have any questions for the time being while I'm still currently going live, this is the best time to ask me to reach me to answer those questions. By the way, I see more 1101 says, got the paperwork you've been looking for, 25 years worth of studying. Okay, if you don't mind, more 1101, you can shoot me an email. It's in the description box after this video uploads on my previous videos. Let me know what you're talking about specifically so I will have better clarification. There are some people, by the way, some subscribers I have exempted who do not have to pay the consultation fee to reach me, by the way. And I definitely, so far, there's a male, there's 2 females, and there's a guy. They're highly advanced. One of them has a following themselves, by the way, and actually has a YouTube channel as well that's very advanced and has classes. She's exempted. Another individual, 2, by the way, maybe a couple more, and there's one guy, by the way, and they all have different types of information that's beneficial because there are different processes. So the paperwork you're referring to, more 1101, if you want to elaborate, let me know what you're referring to, by the way. But I can put you in a special category because I announced in the past that I was looking for people who were advanced, more advanced than myself, where you've heard the saying, sword sharpens sword, by the way. And those individuals I put in a special category that are exempted from the consultation fee, because other than that, my actual time, what I have to spend teaching this information to newbies or breaking things down, can be time consuming with my schedule that I have. It can literally take hours because there's a lot of documents and paperwork and webinars and classes I've already taken and studied. So just putting it out there. So to go back to the notes to finish up really quick. So I was going over the some of the gatekeepers. By the way, they study this type of info I bring to you guys to try to sabotage the various procedures or openly discredit procedures we've proven that do work or once did at one time. Some of these people, I'm not saying all of them are, some of them may be ill-informed, some of them may be ignorant, but some of these people, however, are very mean-spirited, hateful people. They're ill-willed, and it's believed to be some are being paid to do this by banking cartels or other individuals high up, by the way. So just keep that in mind. This information in the public is available. However, it is being intentionally hidden, by the way. I've come across some more new information recently where it appears now you have to become a certain type of corporation just to access your credit, by the way. Or you literally, I would say, have to learn how to run a business. I'll just kind of give some hints there. Many years ago, I was informed that the TDA transactions that what people remember were getting reversals from used to go through. I don't know which time period or what year specifically, with no reversals when you attempted to pay bills. I was told those transactions used to go through by multiple sources. Then they changed how you could access that specific account to make it more difficult, by the way. So I heard allegedly during that time period when these transactions were processed, these institutions saw the names of people pop up in their system as banks, and this set off a red flag to them. Since you are actually a bank dealing with your in lingus trust, they changed the procedure, making it increasingly more difficult to discharge debt, and they made it much harder to properly gain control of your master accounts, by the way. Let me also say there are, once again, I went over this just now, there are many various processes which makes learning this type of information confusing if you were studying one type of formula or one particular blueprint. That's where confusion can come in at. And keep in mind, it's not generally a silver bullet or a one size fits all. There is, but remember, unless you meet an elite, someone who's all the way on the other side, who you've already vetted out, who's willing to share with you how to correctly follow that blueprint or go through, it's going to be more confusing. Now, I say the position I'm in, I'm at a more advanced stage with my skill set, my experience throughout the years, my eyes. I've been able to assess what's worked. I've been able to see even different processes people have forgot about, some processes, procedures people have never heard of. And I'm able to break them down from a historical aspect, or being like an archivist. If you go to the National Archives or different museums, how you'll have an archive, and my memory sort of works like that, by the way. When I did research on myself some years ago, I have a form of, I discovered it's called an autobiographical memory. Now, some people have a greater versions of it where they can remember back to specific days or everything they did in a day going back to childhood. I'm not that good, but I can remember even at certain time periods going back to when I was a baby. Some stuff I do forget about, by the way, but that's known as, they call superior memory. I did discover in ways there is some relations to a photographic memory, but photographic memory is still something different, by the way. So that's how my skill set has enabled me to assess, evaluate, and look at this information and provide a better assessment and opinion. And I'm one of a few people that is willing to share certain types of information as well. So let me jump back into the chat section, by the way. Okay. Once again, I'm your host, John Dorsey. You're joining me at Dorsey's Resource. On a side note, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you haven't. You can follow me at Dorsey's Resource on Facebook. I'm on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. Obviously on YouTube. I also have a backup channel, Dorsey's Resource Channel 2, where I may come before you guys when I'm ghost over here, or I might go dark for a while. I might put out a video over there. By the way, there's a video that I already did over there, which is a high power video. It's one of the first videos that if I had done it over here, I would have had way more views. In case you guys are not aware, I'm going to get ready to wrap things up too, just to give you guys a heads up. So this is one of the last calls. While I'm here to answer questions. I did cover the new guidelines. I'm not answering questions by email unless you set up a consultation with me. But if you have any questions about any other regards, any statements, comments, or concerns, feel free to post it in the chat, and I will do my level best to answer your question. This is the last call. And once again, don't forget the thumbs up. Also share this video. So to delve back into the notes, I'm going over the information why I'm returning to YouTube, to social media. I'm going to go over, this is in relation to that event that I attended some years back, when I used to ask about what happened to my package that was submitted with my birth certificate, SSN card, DTC forms, thumb drive. They promised at the time would be returned, I guess, after it was processed. Then it turned into day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, we were being promised that we were literally on the side, like this was getting ready to pop. It was getting ready to happen. So it turned into year after year, delays after delays, where we're all the way into 2020 and I'm still not funded yet. So with that being said, by the way, this has been very frustrating. I did go over previously. I'm not a money hungry person, or I'm not materialistic like some people. All I wanted was to get cashed out, which that's all they simply had to do. Even if he would have said, here's 10,000 and here's 100,000, just keep your mouth shut. That would have provided more credibility that this was real, and would have helped people be more patient, and would have helped people for the time being. That should have been the first humanitarian project, is helping the own people within your family. If you claim that they're really family, because your word is supposed to be your bond. If you want people to be good custodians and trust you, because they're always mentioning about being good custodians. So I think that starts with having integrity being a good custodian, if you want people to trust you, they need to see some type of credibility. This also adds to checks and balances and transparency, by the way. So, I know that this is real. However, I question, are they going to keep their word? Because once again, your word is supposed to be your bond. If you want us to be good custodians, and don't you think that people need to trust you as well? Just something to think about. We were being assisted with the FRB consent application, by the way. This is to prove that it's only a few individuals that know how to fill that out or even know about that information. And by that individual's own admission, there were other elites that were at the events that were monitoring us or whatever. And so they're already funded. They're already eating good at night. Their families, they're well taken care of. I'm pretty sure their children. But those of us that are still on these 9-to-5 jobs, still in the rat race, it's been very frustrating for us to be patient all of these years. And then to go through the process where we were receiving reversals. If he had simply done the consent application for us on our behalf, we wouldn't have had those issues, which is a separate transaction from the black card, which the DTC, that's even another separate transaction, by the way. These are some viable solutions that would have helped out or helped people keep their mouth shut, by the way. I was being told that my channel is being watched and that everything you do in the public is public. I am aware of that. However, at the same time, the powers that be also don't want people learning this type of information. To let you guys know, I want to give you guys a heads up. They prefer for some of these powerful processes or loopholes that people find out about remain low key. They also don't want people to know about this event, in my opinion, to believe it was legitimate, because they don't want current attendees or newbies or people getting this information from the outside to be too sure. And one of the reasons they keep stalling is to throw people off, to keep them off balance. They don't want current attendees to be sure things will eventually happen despite all the delays and stalling. They don't want people to have that reassurance, because by keeping you off balance, they can control you better. They want yes men and yes women. At the end of the day, they don't want free thinking people who can just do anything they want. I was told by another source they're using us for a specific agenda. So to them, getting access to this large sum of money is like a reward only if you obey their agenda, which I think this subverts a person's free will. That's where this is a form of a cult. And anything that subverts a person's free will is not good at all. That's where that part, when the individual was trying to defend this, I said, some people have stated to me this is a form of a cult for those who've continued to stay and they haven't done what was required, and pushing these agendas and threatening people, making it seem like you're going to cut off all their funds. In a way, it's a form of it's really a form of involuntary servitude, or it's like a punish or reward mechanism, by the way, that this is subverting people's free will, by the way. I was also told by another friend who understands the ideology that they see us as their pets, by the way. When you haven't crossed over fully to the other side, they don't see you as an individual. This is why I heard the powers that be who control the public sector, who changed the term hermaphrodite people to intersex, because under the New World Order agenda, everyone is one sex. They no longer want male or female. This is tied in, by the way. They only want to see you. They don't see you as an individual if you're still public, by the way. And you will oftentimes find that many of these people, not just at the higher levels who promote the Democratic Progressive Party and liberal agendas, many of them live perfectly normal lives. They're cisgender people who are married in male and female or traditional nuclear families, by the way. But they're pushing to try to screw up everyone else's family. They will promote these alternative lifestyles to everyone else. And if you disagree with them, you are shamed. You're called a bigot, a racist, a homophobe, a white supremacist, etc. While these people at the top preach these agendas, they're not scrutinized the same way that everyone else is, that they want to follow these agendas. And some of them, because they're lower level minions, gatekeepers, etc., they're trying to climb up the ladder to be at the top, like their masters that they answer to. By the way, that's why there's some of them, these lower level gatekeepers and minions, are pushing these agendas. By the way, they also, I was told in relation to this event, they also don't want people putting themselves in harm's way when less informed people go out and do things. I can understand that, by the way, because that's why I say in my disclaimer, people, you got to be responsible, govern yourselves accordingly, in case I forgot to mention that. I can tell you with great certainty, these are not secret squirrel accounts, as some claim. These accounts are real. However, one has to know the correct way to access them. So there's this gatekeeper out there I call, who else, a villain, who calls these secret squirrel accounts. And you'll know when you come across, without saying they're not worth mentioning the name. By the way, these accounts are real. These are not secret squirrel accounts. From the previous videos that you guys seen me do, you seen me show that black card numerous times. Even that video, I said I'm not going to take it down, I'm gonna leave it up. I showed the consent application, also known as, that's tied in with the operating circulars, that's tied in on the Federal Reserve's website. So I'm showing you giving you guys credible information to show you I'm not fabricating or making information up like that other individual has, where sometimes these gatekeepers of people, they like to mix in lies with truth, overall, to also confuse you and throw you off, because they don't want the left hand to know what the right hand is doing. They want to try to steer people away from even the valid side of this information. They just want everybody to believe that this is a scam. They want to label everyone as a sovereign citizen, or make everyone like call them a bigot, racist, without scrutinizing every individual's personality or ideology. It's just easy for them to their followers or whatever to try to brainwash them. So that's why I tell you, everyone, don't take my word for what I'm saying. Assess the information, use critical thinking, investigate and research. So these are not secret squirrel accounts, as this individual claimed, by the way. Just want to make that clear. Let me check the chat. By the way, it says the change of the gatekeepers is taking place. 2020 is 2012. They did not want to give up that goal. Okay. Interesting. Thank you for the comment, by the way. Go back to where I was reading from. Okay. I went over that. They don't want a stampede coming through. There's another. They also don't want people putting, okay, I read that. Okay. From that event I attended, I did receive valid documentation and do know these accounts did work at one time. I went over that in this video earlier. Okay, the next sentence, paragraph. There is also another variation to access these type of accounts. However, once again, one has to know the correct procedure, and there are ways to protect yourself. At the same time, once again, these individuals in the private sector do not want general members of the public knowing how to access these accounts. There is still a stampede of people who are adamant on attempting to access these accounts, by the way. That's why when I heard, when people took this class this past summer, that some of these IRS offices or some of these government institutions are filled to capacity when they receive a lot of documents from a stampede, or a lot of people are trying to access this information, that are waking up, by the way. There's a massive stampede of people. So that is a good thing, in my opinion. There's people who want their freedom, but there is a correct way. But I did cover it. It is hidden intentionally by these members of the private sector. Some of them have nefarious intentions, by the way. I was informed allegedly that some of these transactions went through at one time. However, they are blocking access for certain types of accounts people are trying to access. That's been confirmed. Once again, I do have supporting documentation to validate the claims I'm making. However, the ruling class elite who do know how to access them don't want that information to be easily available, by the way. This is also, yes, because they charge interest on nothing but numbers. This is a form of fractional reserve banking. They never loan anything. Further, interest or usury is unlawful in the Bible and was unlawful before, even in Islam and in the Quran, and should be unlawful still for all the lives they've ruined as a result. It is in fact unlawful because it is not a mutually beneficial agreement within the free market where I have something and you willingly exchange something of equitable value for it is fine and that is fair. But theft by deception, what they're doing by blocking our access to these accounts, hiding it, how to access it, this is theft by deception. This is manipulation. This is a form of unjust enrichment. And this is also stealing from us, which I mentioned. Lawyers, judges, public officials, gatekeepers who do know about this are involved in this massive cover up. By the way, that's why you have to be careful and try to learn as much information as possible, how to defend yourself in court, learn about the laws, how to data processing, build your clerical skills up, by the way, because this is criminal misconduct, what they're doing with this theft by deception and manipulation, and, you know, making it harder to access these accounts, by the way. So you go back to the chat section. Okay. So far, there's a lot of information I went over in this video, by the way. That's about it as far as my notes. Got to get ready to shut things down, guys. I appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy schedule to watch my videos. This is the last call. If you do have any comments, questions, or concerns, I'm getting ready to shut things down, by the way. I will try to acknowledge you. Don't hesitate. But I went over the information, why I'm returning, why I decided to return. That was in relation, of course, to that event I attended. I'm going to leave the video up that I did previously, by the way. Thank you, Telsaw. Appreciate you in the chat section. So if you guys want to follow me, you can follow me once again. I am your host, John Dorsey, at Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, at Dorsey's Resource, obviously on YouTube. I'm also on Minds.com, by the way. See someone who just jumped in. King Oso says, have you ever heard of the Wonder Boy Trust account? No, I'm not familiar with that. I haven't never heard of that, the Wonder Boy Trust account. Very interesting. Wish you jumped in a little earlier. I am getting ready to shut things down. This is a wrap. I do have to get ready to head in, as I call it. I got to punch the clock to the slave plantation again. So if you want to follow me, don't forget, you can also support this channel. I have the link to my channel through Cash App, Dorsey's Resource. Also, there's I can email you the PayPal link as well. Check the description box if you're interested in private coaching. Everything, the information on that, basic information, will be in the description box. By the way, if you have any things that you feel like you want to know, pick my brain about information, you know, I don't hold back, especially when you contact me privately. I'll go a lot more in depth, by the way, if you're interested. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. Once again, I'm your host, John Dorsey. The marathon will continue. Real legends never die. By the way, I want to leave you guys with these cliches, as I normally do sometimes, as usual. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman once again, Kobe Bryant, as well. All the legends out there that we've lost. The marathon will continue. We got to stay at this. Don't give up. By the way, till next time, Wakanda forever. Deuces. Peace. Take care.